Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. Hello, welcome in. Tuesday afternoon, August 13th. I was originally supposed to have, JJ on with me. But if you guys were watching the morning show, you'll see I'm not at the studio right now. I am in my home studio, my home office. We've got Cedric back again. What a devout listener. Devout listener. We got some upgrades, major upgrades coming to the studio. A lot of back end stuff, making sure that the video quality and the audio quality and all the tools our producers need are on point. And we want to make sure that all of that is up and running really before, Broncos season gets started officially here in just a couple weeks. But absolutely before Avs and Nuggets get going here. About a month from now, folks. And so changes coming. They asked if we could maybe go today, shows from home, possibly tomorrow as well. We'll see. Our guy Mark and John are knocking things out, getting stuff done at the studio. So I'm here at home. We're going to talk through a couple things going on around the NHL. And then we do have some dates officially for the Colorado Avalanche, not Western Conference, because it's not every Western Conference team, but it's also not just the Central Division, because it's way more than that. Rookie tournament, rookie face-off, rookie showdown. It's been named various things over the last couple of years. But we got some dates for it. We have some clarity on when that'll be happening, which subsequently means we get a little bit of clarity on what we are probably looking at for camp dates, things like that. And guys, I can't believe it. It almost feels like we made it. September 13th, 1 month from today, the Colorado Avalanche prospects will be on the ice taking on the Anaheim Ducks prospects. 1 month from today, 4 weeks from right now. We will not only be back at the rink, but we'll be watching a game, technically, if you want to call it that. But that means that less than a month from now, we'll be back at the rink for training camp. I'm super excited. This has been such a long off season. It feels like it's been 5-6 months since I've been at the rink. So I'm very excited. I'm really looking forward to that. I guess we could start by talking about that. This is another heavy off-season show, guys. Another heavy off-season show. But hey, that's why we're here. We're professionals, and we push through, and we find stuff to talk about. And I did find super interesting. Obviously, I talked this morning on the Guerrilla Sports Daily Show about Philip Broberg, Dylan Holloway getting their offer sheets from the St. Louis Blues. We'll see if the Edmonton Oilers choose to match that or not. They've got 1 week to match. But, of course, if the Edmonton Oilers don't, that's two young, high-upside players coming to the Central Division. And moves that just continue to make you say, what? That the St. Louis Blues, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know what the St. Louis Blues are, what they're trying to do, who they're trying to be, what they're trying to contend for, because like they're doing stuff, but it doesn't really seem like they're like all that concerned with like getting that much better, just different, I guess. So yeah, we can get into that a little bit here in a minute, but I wanted to start the show by what I was just tweeting about. The Toronto Maple Leafs have, well, they haven't announced. It's kind of been announced on their behalf by insiders. Press conference coming tomorrow morning where they will be taking the captaincy away from John Tavares and bestowing it upon Austin Matthews. It reports are right now that this isn't really like they're stripping it from John Tavares. He was involved in the conversations. Sounds like he's on board with this. Not all that dissimilar to when Milan Hajduk went to the Avs organization and said, look, at this point in my career, I'm a fourth line player. You cannot have a fourth line player being the captain of your team. And he recommended that it go to Gabe Landeskog. Gabe Landeskog became the youngest captain in NHL history at the time and has been the captain of the Colorado Avalanche ever since. I want to circle back to that, and I want to give people a chance to chime in on this conversation. This taking the captaincy away from one player and giving it to another is not something that is completely foreign to the NHL. I mean, I literally just gave you an example of when the Colorado Avalanche did it. The Boston Bruins have done it. The San Jose Sharks have done it like 5 times. The San Jose Sharks just pick a captain, but then are like, that's kind of at our discretion if you're the captain anymore, which I mean, I guess it always is. But, it was, what was it? Patrick Marleau, and they took it from Patrick Marleau to give it to Joe Thornton. Then they took it from Joe Thornton to give it back to Patrick Marleau. And they took it from Patrick Marleau to give it to Joe Pavelski. I don't know. But it's not something that's never been done before. And right here in Colorado, there's been a lot of chatter over the last couple of years with the injury to Gabe Landeskog that the Avalanche, a lot of fans thought the Avalanche should take the captaincy away from Gabe Landeskog and give it to someone who's in the lineup. I haven't agreed with the idea. I haven't liked the idea. Jared Bednar did say that they entertained the idea at one point of naming a temporary captain. It was either him or Chris McFarland in their season opening presser last year that said, it was a consideration for, that we talked about, but we ultimately decided it wasn't the right thing. And I've been told by folks inside the organization that the idea of naming a temporary captain, my understanding is that I think it was considered. I think it was pretty heavily considered. But the information that I got was that the conclusion that was essentially come to was, if you feel that you need to put a certain letter on a player's chest for them to be the type of leader that you need or want them to be, then they're probably not the leader that you need or want them to be. A letter isn't what defines that. You can be an incredibly strong leader in that locker room, regardless if you are the captain and alternate captain, or if you're just a new player in the locker room. And I think Andrew Cogliano is maybe the best example of that. Came in at the trade deadline in 2022, and the night before the Avs won the Stanley Cup, he is the one who got up and gave the speech. He is the one who called the meeting. He is the one who brought players in that room to tears with what he had to say. You don't have to be, doesn't have to be printed right here. Now, you look at what's happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs and how is this different? How is changing who the captain is going to change anything? Or, what is the situation? So, and how is it different from what the Avalanche are going through? I think it's pretty clear John Tavares won't be back in Toronto after his contract expires after next season. It just hasn't gone the way that anyone wanted it to. John Tavares never took that team to the next level like many thought he would. And he's almost even kind of become the anchor of that core four, where the entire team and that core four, Willie Nylander, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, a lot of those are young players still in the heart of their prime, and still being looked at as not necessarily the next wave, because that group has been in Toronto now for bordering on too long without winning anything. But they're still young guys entering or right in the heart of their prime. John Tavares is 33. It's pretty clear he's in the back nine of his career. And again, not that he's not still, it's not all that unlike Steven Stamkos, where it's like, yeah, that's still a quality player. I'm not saying John Tavares is a bad hockey player, but like, you're kidding yourself if you think that he's still playing and performing at the level that he was when he was brought into Toronto, given the huge contract, and named the captain and looked at to be the guy that was going to get the Leafs over the hump. And it's never come to be. And I think this is the Maple Leafs saying, I'd be willing to bet they would move on from him if they could via trade or something like that. You know, buyout doesn't really make sense with one season left. Just keep the player and see what he can do for you. But I think this is the admission of the Maple Leafs saying, we're moving on and this didn't work. Austin Matthews is the face of our franchise. He will continue to be the face of our franchise. And we're going to make that known. We're going to put that at the forefront. Austin Matthews, I was told that he didn't love it in Toronto. He liked it, didn't love it. I had always heard that he truly did have a desire to go back to Arizona, where he's from, and become the savior of the Arizona Coyotes franchise. That was his favorite team growing up. You know, he was always part of the running joke about Arizona Coyote fans and the market and all of that. And I was told that he had a real desire to change that and to, change the narrative on Arizona and come back and make them a winning franchise and be the captain and be that Shane Doan 2.0. Well, obviously, things didn't go as planned in Arizona with the arena. Austin Matthews ends up signing a short extension in Toronto. And you said, okay, well, maybe if they get everything figured out, Matthews will, that'll be his big move. But the Arizona Coyotes are now gone. They're in Utah. And I think what we're maybe seeing here is Austin Matthews saying, yep, none of the funny business. We're not going to do any of that. I'm going to be a Leaf. And, maybe even taking on a bit of that mantle that you've heard us talk about before with Gabe Landeskog and Eric Johnson, where they're saying we want to be part of the solution, not a byproduct of the issues. So this seems more than, well, it didn't work with John Tavares as captain, so we need to get someone else in here. No, this seems like it's part of a larger vision for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we got a comment in here. It's a few comments. I think it's spread out. From Corey, opinion, the Avs need to truly figure things out when it comes to Landy. Is there a possibility he returns? Yes. Second comment. Is there a greater possibility he returns and realizes he can't do it and retires? Yes. The team needs to figure things out and focus on the long-term future. I would not say there's a greater possibility of that happening. Nope. I would say, I would say it's a far greater possibility that he returns than he returns and realizes he can't do it. Do I think that there's a situation where he comes back and after 3-4 years decides he's not quite the same player that he was or wanted to be? Yeah, I think that's a higher possibility than comes back, realizes he can't do it, and retires. But I think if Gabe Landeskog gets back into a game, I think he's here for the next half decade. I just, I just don't think he's going to go through all of it just to throw his hands up and call it quits. Sorry, I'm texting Chloe back. She's got all kinds of social media questions. Here's another take from Corey. I agree to a certain standpoint. We have 4 or 5 alternates right now. We have too many captains in the room and not one specific person to look to and settle things down. I agree with that last sentence. You don't have the guy. You don't have the leader. Anybody who has worked for a great leader, been in the presence of great leadership, knows what impact a strong leader can have. And I absolutely believe Gabe Landeskog is one of, if not the best captain in the NHL. You talk to teammates, past teammates, opponents, as well as this coaching staff. And Jared Bednar has told us before, Gabe Landeskog almost kind of sits somewhere in between player and coach. He falls somewhere in this middle here, that he is the true connection point between the players in the locker room and the coaches in the office. That he's got a better pulse on this group than maybe anyone. He knows when he needs to go to Jared Bednar and say, we need a push, or, hey, we need you guys to pull back. Gabe Landeskog is a special individual. That's the other part of this that I'm not fully sure that people grasp that part of it too. Simply replacing Gabe Landeskog in the locker room does not fix any issues. Even if Gabe Landeskog came out and said, I'm retiring, I'm not coming back. Simply naming Nathan MacKinnon or Cale Makar the captain, that's still not solving your issue. I can tell you guys right now, Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar are not waiting for approval to step up and be a leader. I've heard more positive things about the strides that Nathan MacKinnon made in his leadership style in the last 18 months than I ever have. That he changed his approach, that he's still authentically himself and he still speaks his mind, but that the way he communicates with players in private is better. The way he approaches them about critiques has improved. And that's all, I'm sure, taking lessons from Gabe Landeskog. So I think it's actually, I disagree with Corey in that I don't think you can have too many leaders or captains. I think having strong leadership from several people is good. Where I also agree with where I do agree with Corey is that you don't have the one guy to look to. You don't have the guy. You've got a lot of great leaders and great guys, and that's fantastic. That can take you a long, long way. But Gabe Landeskog does have that presence where he can walk into a chaotic room, a chaotic situation, a group that's down on themselves, a group that's doubting themselves, and he can say, hey, we're done with that. We're turning the page. We're moving forward. The other thing Gabe Landeskog does maybe better than anyone, that dude stands in there and takes accountability and responsibility for everything, even when it's not on him. Cale Makar is also really good about this. Nathan MacKinnon's good about it in a different way, where Nathan MacKinnon he shoulders the blame for everything. He no matter what goes wrong, he can be critical. He can critique other players. He can say we weren't good top to bottom, But Nathan MacKinnon almost always ends it with the sentiment of, but it starts with me. I have to be better. So Nathan MacKinnon takes ownership. Cale Makar is maybe harder on himself than any other NHLer that I've met. But Gabe Landeskog does it in a different way. And I'd be willing to bet those two players would tell you the same thing. There's just something different about it. Could be the Avs' 10th loss in a row by the score of 8-1. And Gabe Landeskog's going to stand in there, and he's not going to give you the cliches. He's going to be honest, and he's going to tell you what exactly this group needs to do to get things fixed. And he's not going to call people out, but he's also not going to pull punches. The point I'm trying to make here is there's a cultural shift happening in Toronto. They are looking to shake things up without making any actual structural changes, which that's a different problem for Leafs podcast to dissect. There's a cultural change happening, and that's the reason for their change. The Avalanche are not in that same boat. The Avs are not looking to change things about the culture or the way that things are run. In fact, they're doing everything they can to hold on to what Gabe Landeskog, Nathan MacKinnon, and company have built. And having Gabe Landeskog back, even if he's not at 100% the Gabe Landeskog that went out with the injury, having him back in the locker room and in the trenches, going to war every single night, preparing his body, preparing his mind, and doing battle every night, like I'm telling you guys, the Avs don't need Gabe Landeskog. I mean, you always want Gabe Landeskog back at 100% on the ice, but that's not the biggest part of him that they're missing. With the emergence of Arturi Lehkonen, if you get Val Nichushkin back, with the addition of Casey Middlestat, the breakout of Jonathan Drouin, and now the excitement of a guy like Cal Ritchie on the horizon, Gabe Landeskog's on-ice production, yes, it's fantastic. It's great to have. He's an elite player. But where you're missing him the most is his presence and his leadership. At least that's my opinion. If you can get Gabe Landeskog back at 80 to 85% of what he was, I think he's an incredibly dangerous middle six player who still is going to be an elite level player in front and around the net. So, if you go, if word comes out that Gabe Landeskog is suddenly unsure if he's going to be able to come back, which is the opposite of everything that we're hearing right now publicly, I would say that it would maybe be time for the Avs to say, okay, well, we are going to name an interim captain. We're going to name an interim captain, because at that point, if Gabe Landeskog isn't coming back, then you're not necessarily looking for a cultural shift, but there is a clear, obvious shift and change that is coming to your locker room. So I think if that were to happen, which I think is highly unlikely at this point right now, August 13th, with an injury like this, setbacks, anything can change at any moment. But as far as what we know publicly today, I don't think that we are in danger of hearing Gabe Landeskog is hanging him up, that he's not going to attempt to come back. If at any point that were to happen, I think you could maybe get in that, to have that conversation. But for right now, I think you're looking at the Maple Leafs. That is them intentionally trying to change things and shake things up, as where the Avs are trying their hardest to stay in this pocket that Gabe Landeskog helped create. So different situations, but fascinating parallels either way. And good for Austin Matthews. Honestly, I think he's an interesting personality. I think he's good for the game. I think he's unbelievably talented. And I think he's going to be the first real test of Alex Ovechkin's true legacy in the modern era. I think Alex Ovechkin is, without a doubt, the greatest goal scorer that has ever worn hockey skates. I think we are truly lucky that we've gotten to see what will go down as an all-time great number. He's going to break a record, more than likely, that none of us ever thought would be touched. And he's done it through the consistency. Austin Matthews is trending early to beat whatever Alex Ovechkin ends up at. I think he's going to probably shoot for 900. Ovechkin. And right now, Matthews is on pace to pass that. But again, what's been so amazing about Alex Ovechkin has been the consistency in his career. We'll see if Austin Matthews can match that. All right. This is going to be a shorter show today. I've got one more thing I do want to talk a little bit about the rookie tournament that's coming up here in a month and why it's maybe a little bit more interesting than last year. Getting that text off. Like I said, 1 month from now, the Avs rookie tournament, face-off, showdown, whatever they're going to call it this year. Let's see. Do they have an official name for it on the graphic? Face-off, rookie face-off. 1 month from now. Last year for the Avs, it was nothing. You had the Vegas Golden Knights out there who are the defending Stanley Cup champions who do not believe in prospects, basically. And then you had the Avalanche, who your one prospect that you really wanted to see was Cal Ritchie, and he was injured. He was there, but he couldn't play. Again, not to take away from any of the other rookies and prospects that were there, but these tournaments are exciting. These rookie tournaments are exciting when you have high-end prospects that you're getting. It's kind of like progressions. Okay, you're a high-end prospect and you dominated against younger players. Now we're going to put you up against the best of the best prospects. These are prospects that are have professional deals, have played AHL hockey, have played ECHL hockey, or a year or two removed from college or junior hockey. So, okay, let's see how you do. And then from there, we'll place you, and maybe, all right, maybe you're playing American League, and we'll bump you up another level, and so on and so forth. But with the injury to Cal Ritchie, we didn't get to see that. Well, then we got to watch him go back and just absolutely dominate against players in the OHL all season. We don't have any official rosters or any official confirmation, but all things point toward Cal Ritchie should absolutely be participating along with a player like Sean Behrens in this year's rookie tournament. To me, those are two players that you are looking at as either soon to be NHL graduates or, in Sean Behrens' case, and my good friend Megan Angley, I'm sorry, cover your ears, but for Sean Behrens, a potential trade piece. And seeing how he's continuing to develop after getting a few games in with the Colorado Eagles at the end of last season. So I think this is going to be a much more interesting tournament for the Avs this year. We talk a lot about they need prospects that are going to turn out and graduate into NHL players. I think you've got two who should be competing in the tournament this year that have a great chance. Now, there's no word right now if Ilya Nabokov will be coming over. Honestly, I see that as highly unlikely, given that he's still got an active and valid KHL contract. So I don't think that we'll see Nabokov, but wow, would that be a treat if on some weird off chance he was able to get that green light from his current KHL club to come over and participate and get a taste of North American hockey. We'll see what happens. If that were the case, I think very suddenly the Avs would have three players that everyone would be highly interested in seeing how they perform in a tournament like that against players that are really kind of their peers at their same level. So anxiously awaiting those rosters. We'll see who's going, who's on the list, who's not for the Avs, but that's 1 month from today in Los Angeles. And I'm looking forward to it. Guerrilla Sports should be there covering everything from the weekend and just getting everything kicked off for the season. So I think that's going to do it for me today, guys. Like I said, a little bit of a shorter show. We'll be back on Friday in the studio. It'll be me and JJ talking all things Avs, NHL, as we get closer and closer and closer to the start of the season. But thanks for hanging out. I feel like these are like the topics have stayed semi-relevant, and hopefully I'm not giving myself too much credit here, me and JJ too much credit here. We're fighting through. This is hockey. You got to battle. You got to fight. We're getting through to the end of the offseason and into the start of camp, which is coming up about 3.5-ish weeks from now. We've made it, folks. We're inside the last month. It's the home stretch. I'm producing today. It's Jesse on the board, making sure. For Jesse, I'm Jesse. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Have a great afternoon. We'll talk to you guys on Friday. Jesse Montano, Guerrilla Sports. Thanks so much. We'll see you later.